The Richest Man in Babylon, written by George S. Clason, read by Sarah Partridge. Originally published in 1926 as a series of pamphlets entitled The Babylon Course in Financial Success for Those Who Desire Much Gold. The most famous of the series was titled The Richest Man in Babylon, which I will now read. As a general disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed in this book belong solely to the author and do not necessarily reflect those of the Tamuda for USA or its affiliates. This recording is a production of the Tamuda for USA for the purposes of research, study, and discussion. The Richest Man in Babylon. The richest man in Babylon had a system that led him to the goals he desired. In this book, he shares his system, offering it for us to follow without cost or obligation. His system is recommended for anyone who seeks financial abundance. In old Babylon, there once lived a very wealthy man named Akkad. He was renowned far and wide for his immense wealth and his generosity. He was charitable, generous with his family, and liberal in his personal expenses. Yet, despite his spending, his wealth grew faster each year than he could spend it. One day, certain friends from his youth came to him and said, "You, Akkad, are more fortunate than us. You have become the richest man in all of Babylon, while we struggle for existence. You can wear the finest garments and enjoy the rarest foods, while we must be content to clothe our families in merely presentable attire and feed them as best we can. Yet once, we were equals. We studied under the same master and played the same games. In neither study nor games did you excel beyond us. In the years since, you have been no more honorable a citizen than we, nor have you worked harder or more faithfully, as far as we can tell. Why then, should fickle fate favor you with all the good things in life while ignoring us, who are equally deserving?" To this, Akkad replied, "If you have not acquired more than a bare existence in the years since our youth, it is because you either have failed to learn the laws that govern the building of wealth, or you have not observed them. Fickle fate is a treacherous goddess who brings no lasting good to anyone. On the contrary, she often brings ruin to those she showers with unearned gold. She makes reckless spenders of men who quickly squander all they receive and are left burdened with desires they cannot satisfy. Others whom she favors become misers, hoarding their wealth out of fear of losing it, knowing they lack the ability to replace it. Such people live in constant fear of robbers and doom themselves to lives of emptiness and secret misery. There are perhaps a few who can take unearned wealth, add to it, and continue to live as happy and contented citizens. But such people are so rare that I know of them only by hearsay. Think of the men who have inherited sudden wealth, and you will see the truth in my words." Akkad's friends admitted that his observations were accurate. They asked him to explain how he had accumulated so much wealth. Akkad continued, "In my youth, I looked around and saw all the good things that bring happiness and contentment. I realized that wealth increases the ability to enjoy these blessings. Wealth is a power. With wealth, many things are possible. One may adorn their home with the finest furnishings. One may sail distant seas, feast on delicacies from far lands, and acquire treasures crafted by goldsmiths and stone polishers. One may even build mighty temples to honor the gods. With wealth, one can do all these things and more, delighting the senses and gratifying the soul. When I understood this, I resolved to claim my share of life's riches. I refused to stand idly by, enviously watching others enjoy the good things of life. I would not be content to clothe myself in the cheapest garments that merely looked respectable. I would not accept the lot of a poor man. On the contrary, I resolved to make myself a guest at life's banquet of good things. Being, as you know, the son of a humble merchant, one of a large family with no hope of an inheritance, and not being endowed, as you have so plainly said, with superior powers or wisdom, I decided that achieving my desires would require time and study. As for time, all men have it in abundance. Each of you has let slip enough time to have made yourselves wealthy, yet you admit you have little to show for it except your families, of which you can rightfully be proud. As for study, did not our wise teacher teach us that learning was of two kinds? One kind being the knowledge we acquire and know, and the other being the skill to discover what we do not know. Therefore, I resolved to learn how one might accumulate wealth and, having learned, to make it my mission to succeed at it. For is it not wise to enjoy life's blessings while we dwell in the brightness of the sunshine? Sorrow will descend upon us soon enough when we depart for the darkness of the spirit world. I found employment as a scribe in the Hall of Records, and I worked long hours each day upon the clay tablets. Week after week, month after month, I labored. Yet for all my efforts, I had nothing to show for my earnings. Food, clothing, offerings to the gods, and other expenses, which I can no longer recall, consumed everything I earned. But my determination never wavered. One day, Algamish, the moneylender, came to the house of the city master and ordered a copy of the 9th law. He told me, "I must have this in 2 days. If you complete it on time, I will pay you 2 coppers." I worked diligently, but the law was lengthy, and when Algamish returned, the task was unfinished. He was angry, and, had I been his slave, he might have beaten me. However, knowing that the city master would not permit him to harm me, I stood my ground and said, "Algamish, you are a very rich man. Tell me how I, too, may become rich, and I will work through the night. By sunrise, the tablets will be complete." He smiled at me and replied, "You are a bold knave, but we shall call it a bargain." That night, I worked tirelessly. My back ached, and the smoke from the lamp irritated my eyes until I could barely see. Yet, by sunrise, the tablets were finished. When he returned, I said, "Now, tell me what you promised." "You have fulfilled your part of our bargain, my son," he said kindly, "and I will fulfill mine. I will share my knowledge because I am growing old, and an old tongue loves to share its wisdom. When youth seeks advice from age, it receives the vision of years. Yet too often, youth dismisses age's counsel, thinking it belongs to a bygone era, and so it profits not. But remember this, the sun that shines today is the same sun that shone when your father was born, and will still be shining when your last grandchild passes into the darkness." He continued, "The thoughts of youth are like meteors that blaze brightly and briefly across the sky. The wisdom of age, however, is like the fixed stars, constant and dependable, guiding the sailor's course. Mark my words well. If you fail to grasp the truth of what I share, your night's labor will have been in vain." Then he looked at me intently and said in a low, deliberate tone, "I found the road to wealth when I decided that a portion of all I earned was mine to keep, and so will you." His piercing gaze made his words unforgettable, yet he said no more. "Is that all?" I asked. "That alone was enough to transform a humble shepherd into a wealthy moneylender," he replied. "But surely all I earn is mine to keep," I argued. "Far from it," he retorted. "Do you not pay the garment maker? Do you not pay the sandal maker? Do you not pay for the food you eat? Can you live in Babylon without spending? What do you have to show for your earnings of the past month? The past year? Fool, you pay everyone but yourself. Dullard, you labor for others while neglecting your own fortune. As well be a slave, working only for the food and clothing your master provides. If you kept for yourself 1/10 of all you earn, how much would you have in 10 years? My knowledge of numbers did not fail me, and I answered, "As much as I earn in 1 year." "You speak but half the truth," he retorted. "Every gold piece you save is a slave to work for you. Every copper it earns is its child, which can also earn for you. If you desire wealth, what you save must earn, and its children must earn, and their children's children must earn, so all can contribute to the abundance you seek. You think I have cheated you for your night's work," he continued, "but I have paid you 1,000 times over if you have the intelligence to understand the truth I offer you. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. It should be no less than 1/10, regardless of how little you earn. It can be more if you can afford it. Pay yourself first. Do not buy from the clothes maker or the sandal maker more than you can afford, leaving enough for food, charity, and offerings to the gods. Wealth, like a tree, grows from a small seed. The first copper you save is the seed from which your tree of wealth shall grow. The sooner you plant that seed, the sooner your tree will flourish. And the more faithfully you nurture and care for it with consistent savings, the sooner you will enjoy its shade and contentment." With those words, he took his tablets and left. I thought deeply about what he said, and it made sense. I decided to test it. Every time I received my pay, I set aside 1 out of every 10 coppers and hid it away. Strangely, I found myself no worse off financially. I noticed no significant difference as I adjusted my spending to get by without that 10th. However, as my savings grew, I was often tempted to spend it on the enticing goods displayed by merchants, brought by camels and ships from Phoenicia. But I resisted wisely. After 12 months, Algamish returned and asked, "Son, have you paid yourself not less than 1/10 of all you earned over the past year?" I replied proudly, "Yes, master, I have." "Good," he said, beaming. "And what have you done with it?" "I gave it to Asmur, the brickmaker," I answered. "He told me he was traveling across the 7 seas and would buy rare jewels from Tyre. When he returns, we shall sell them at high prices and share the profits." Algamish growled, "Every fool must learn. Why would you trust a brickmaker's knowledge about jewels? Would you consult a bread maker about the stars? No, by my tunic. You would seek the astrologer if you had the sense to think. Your savings are gone, youth. You have uprooted your wealth tree. But plant another. Try again. Next time, if you seek advice about jewels, go to a jewel merchant. If you wish to understand sheep, consult a herdsman. Advice is freely given, but ensure you take only what is worth having. Those who rely on uninformed opinions about their savings pay with their savings to prove those opinions false." With that, he left. His words proved true. The Phoenicians had deceived Asmur, selling him worthless glass that resembled gems. Yet, as Algamish had instructed, I started saving 1/10 of my earnings again. By then, I had formed the habit, and it was no longer difficult. A year later, Algamish returned to the scribe's room and asked me, "What progress have you made since we last spoke?" I replied confidently, "I have paid myself faithfully, and I entrusted my savings to Agar, the shield maker, to buy bronze. Every 4th month, he pays me rent." "Good," he said. "And what do you do with the rental?" "I use it to enjoy feasts with honey, fine wine, and spiced cakes," I admitted. "I have also bought myself a scarlet tunic, and someday I plan to buy a young ass to ride." Algamish laughed and said, "You eat the children of your savings. How then do you expect them to work for you? How can they have children of their own to work for you? First, build an army of golden slaves, and then you may enjoy many rich banquets without regret." And so saying, he again departed. I did not see him for 2 years until he returned once more. His face was etched with deep lines, and his eyes drooped with the weariness of age. He said to me, "Arkad, have you yet achieved the wealth you dreamed of?" I answered, "Not yet all that I desire, but I have some, and it earns more, and its earnings earn more." "And do you still take the advice of brickmakers?" "On brickmaking, they give good advice," I replied with a smile. "Arkad," he said, "you have learned your lessons well. First, you learned to live on less than you earned. Then, you sought advice only from those competent through experience. Lastly, you have learned to make gold work for you. You now understand how to acquire wealth, keep it, and use it. For this, you are capable of holding a responsible position. I am growing old. My sons care only for spending and give no thought to earning. My interests are vast and too much for me to oversee. If you will go to Nippur to manage my lands, I will make you my partner, and you shall share in my estate." I went to Nippur and took charge of his holdings, which were large. With ambition and mastery of the 3 laws of wealth, I greatly increased the value of his properties. I prospered much, and when the spirit of Algamish departed to the world beyond, I shared in his estate as he had arranged under the law. So spoke Arkad. When he finished, one of his friends remarked, "You were indeed fortunate that Algamish made you his heir." "Fortunate only in that I had the desire to prosper long before I met him," Arkad replied. "For 4 years, did I not prove my purpose by faithfully saving 1/10 of all I earned? Would you call a fisherman lucky if he had spent years studying the habits of fish so he could cast his nets wisely? Opportunity is a haughty goddess who wastes no time with the unprepared. You had great willpower to persevere after losing your first year's savings, said another friend. That is uncommon. Willpower, Arkad exclaimed. What nonsense! Do you think willpower gives a man strength to lift burdens heavier than he can bear, or to move a load that oxen cannot budge? Willpower is simply the determination to fulfill the tasks you set for yourself. If I commit to a task, however trifling, I see it through. Otherwise, how could I trust myself to achieve greater goals? Suppose I decide, for 100 days, as I cross the bridge into the city, I will pick up a pebble and toss it into the stream. If, on the 7th day, I forget, I would not say, tomorrow, I will toss 2 pebbles to make up for it. Instead, I would retrace my steps and toss the pebble. Nor, on the 20th day, would I say, Arkad, this is pointless. Why cast a pebble each day? Throw in a handful and be done with it. No, I would not do that. When I set a task, I complete it. That is why I am careful not to begin tasks that are too difficult or impractical. I value my leisure. Another friend spoke, if what you say is true, and it does seem reasonable, then why is wealth not abundant for all men? If everyone followed your teachings, would there be enough wealth to go around? Arkad replied, wealth grows wherever men exert energy. If a rich man builds a palace, is the gold he pays gone? No. The brickmaker takes a portion, the laborer takes a portion, the artist takes a portion. Everyone who works on the house receives part of it. When the palace is finished, is it not worth all it cost? Does not the land upon which it stands increase in value? Does not the neighboring ground also gain worth because of it? Wealth grows in ways that seem magical. No man can predict its limits. Have not the Phoenicians built great cities on barren coasts with wealth gained from their ships of commerce? And what then do you advise us to do so that we also may become rich? Asked another of his friends. The years have passed, and we are no longer young men. We have nothing put by. Arkad replied, I advise that you take the wisdom of Algamish and say to yourselves, a part of all I earn is mine to keep. Say it in the morning when you rise. Say it at noon. Say it at night. Say it each hour of every day. Say it until the words burn in your mind like letters of fire across the sky. Impress yourself with the idea, fill yourself with the thought, then take whatever portion seems wise, not less than 1/10, and lay it by. Arrange your other expenditures to do this if necessary, but lay by that portion first. Soon, you will discover the rich feeling of having something that is yours alone. As your savings grow, they will inspire you. A new joy of life will thrill you. You will find yourself making greater efforts to earn more, for of your increased earnings, a part will also be yours to keep. Then, learn to make your treasure work for you. Make it your slave. Let it and its children and their children's children work for you. Ensure an income for your future. Look at the aged and remember that one day, you too will join their ranks. Invest your treasure wisely and with caution, so it is not lost. Usurious rates of return are but deceitful sirens luring the unwary onto rocks of loss and remorse. Provide also for your family, that they may not want if the gods call you to their realms. Such protection is easily arranged with small, regular payments. The provident man delays not in expectation of a larger sum becoming available for such wise purposes. Seek counsel from wise men. Take advice from those whose daily work involves handling money. Let them save you from errors, like the one I made when I entrusted my savings to Asmor, the brickmaker. A small, safe return is far better than a risky venture. Enjoy life while you are here. Do not overstrain or try to save too much. If 1/10 of your earnings is all you can comfortably keep, then be content with that portion. Live the rest of your life according to your income, and do not fear to spend. Life is good, and it is full of things worthwhile and enjoyable. His friends thanked him and went away. Some were silent, unable to understand because they lacked imagination. Others were sarcastic. believing that someone as wealthy as Arkad should divide his riches with his old friends who were less fortunate. But some had a new light in their eyes. They realized that Algamish had returned to the room of the scribes, not to enrich himself, but to witness a man journey from darkness to light. When that man had found the light, a place awaited him, one that no one else could fill, until they had worked out their own understanding and prepared themselves for opportunity. These were the friends who, in the years that followed, frequently revisited Arkad. He received them gladly, counseled them, and freely shared his wisdom, as experienced men are always willing to do. He also helped them invest their savings wisely, ensuring good interest with safety and avoiding pitfalls of entangled investments that paid no dividends. The turning point in their lives came the day they grasped the truth passed from Algamish to Arkad and from Arkad to them. A part of all you earn is yours to keep.